There is not a single American general in Pentagon or admiral who understands what strategy is. They are illiterate hacks, many of them. They never read Svechin. They have business plans and PowerPoint presentations. That's about as far as it goes. They didn't study Russian. They don't know Russian history. They don't know military history. Most of the American officers are ignorant on the realities of the 20th century warfare, except for, obviously, nothing personal, obviously, of the Gulf War. And so when they talk about it, they have no clue about anything. Jack Keane is basically the ignoramus. Russians have this meme. It's called British scientist. I mean, британские ученые, British scientists. And the meme basically is about that thing. For example, I give you one of the examples of the headlines they use. British scientists conducted their 5-year-long study, and they established the scientific fact that the water is wet. So we pretty much now there is a new meme now circulating, American generals. Jack Keane wouldn't be allowed to command battalion in the modern warfare. And so they do not understand economic, strategic, historical, cultural, all other things. They have zero understanding about Russia. And fact is, look at me, I'm Exhibit A. I made my career as a writer, as an analyst who turned out to be most of the time correct. Not always. I make my own mistakes. I do not try to pretend that I am infallible. I, sometimes screw it up. But the point is, I made a career on the simple premise, which I preach for second decade. There is no Russian experts in the United States, period. Not in CIA, not in Pentagon, not in DIA, and I present. These guys have no clue. They are the products of the fraud, academic fraud, which is a US Ivy League humanities degree and all those programs. And as a result, they get into the things, they do not understand how resources play the main fundamental factor in the strategy and developing both grand strategy of the state and strategy for the military. Did they study World War II? No. They studied World War II only about from MacArthur. The best that they could do Eisenhower, and they call Eisenhower boring, broad front strategy. He wasn't our Patton. He would have gotten to Moscow, beat those Ruskies. Yeah, I mean, so people have issues with arithmetics. Forget about math. Forget about algebra, calculus. Forget about theory of operations. Mr. Donahue, the guy now who is in charge of the American forces in Supreme Commander in Europe, the guy planned the counteroffensive in 2023, which Russians, just laughing out loud. And the guy, his staff, they couldn't even plan this properly. They don't even understand what operational art is. Forget about operations, which is the hard science, probabilities, things of this nature. Operational art, they're not studying. There's rigid templates. That's the only thing they do. Keane, all those people in Washington, they are absolutely ignorant about Russia because I wrote 4 books about that, how they got it so wrong.
Well, and if I could just unfortunately add one more example, I'm sorry, it's going to be painful to your ears, but next thing that Jack Keane talked about yesterday was how he's going to force Putin into a peace to
absolutely. Yeah.
We're in a much better position here in dealing with Mr. Putin and attempting to get him to a negotiating table. And clearly what he's been doing, so our audience also understands this. The reason why he's pounding these cities, he wants to break the will of the Ukrainian people. So they put pressure on the Zelensky government to make major concessions to Putin at the negotiating table. The people in Ukraine, if you polled them today, they would tell you they would like the war end through positive negotiations that are favorable to Ukraine. They don't want the war to end at their expense that favors Putin. They would rather fight on than do that.
When he said that last part there, it reminded me of the joke he just told about 5-year study determined that water was wet. He says, yeah, it turns out that this poll showed that the Ukraine people would rather have an outcome that's to their advantage. Well, yeah, no kidding. Yeah. Can they do it? That's the big question, and I think you have a different answer.
Yeah, well, let's start with the simple thing. How many people Jack Keane's family lost to war? Not a single American serviceman ever lost a family, property to war. United States military doesn't know what continental warfare is. It's a good expeditionary force, which of course easily can beat, or relatively easily can beat, some third world military. But in terms of the understanding of the impact of real war, real warfare, what is known as continental warfare, Jack Keane is simply ignoramus. So, and yeah, how many operations did he win? 0. So, and here's the guy who is a sore loser. He has the, axe to grind for Russians, especially considering the fact that he's member of the board of the Kagan fraudulent Institute for Unstudy of War. There are a bunch of the cretins there, So yeah, he has issues. He's outraged, he's desperate to, give it to Ruskies, just to maybe, I don't know, he's old man. He should retire and just shut up, for crying out loud. But yeah, you have people who not only do not understand what real continental warfare is, they're utterly incompetent in general military terms as applies to the strategy. And again, just to give you an example, they would wonder why Russians produce 600 geraniums a day. This is almost 220,000 a year. And obviously it's ramping up, and there are other assets. They don't understand that Russia produces own composite materials. Russia produces 7 times more of 5.5, I believe, latest, more aluminum than the United States produces. But those people don't read those numbers. They know how to make profit on Wall Street and capitalization of Apple, which is produced primarily in China. So, and as the result, they have no grasp of this. They believe that you can, like Mr. Trump, on the 4th of July, he told Zelensky, why are you sitting in the fence? Why don't you go on the fence? Oh, it's so easy. 3 echelons, the echelon of breakthrough, which usually dies in the security zone, then, the echelon of the exploitation and things like that. But come on, he was in the boarding school for boys, as he himself stated, 2016. This is more than enough to know about military, So, yeah, sure, let's throw away all those cadre military people who have understanding of what is going on. So, he tells Zelensky, just go on the offensive. Zelensky said, and he asked, of course, this question, can you hit Moscow? Oh, if you give me the weapons. So, well, yeah, and, Russians already responded to that too. But yeah, it's just the way it is. I mean, he watches Fox. We know that. Plus, he has this issue with Epstein files, and so he has a lot of on his plate, to put it mildly. So, and as a result, these are the people who surround him, and as the result, well, we have what we have, and it's going to be like this until basically, yeah, there's nothing left, as you correctly stated. Minimal stocks, I mean, the untouchable stocks, so to speak, are reached. Yeah.
You talk about people that are surrounding Trump, and part of the reason for his misinformation. There was, I had a picture a couple of days ago, I think may have been on the 4th of July, that Trump went golfing with Lindsey Graham, had some pictures of him, and Graham's talking about a lot of stuff about these sanctions, right? He went on CBS News, I guess a week ago Sunday, and was talking about a bunch of smack that Trump was going to do. Turns out he didn't do those things, didn't go that far. But that's not stopped Lindsey Graham, because he's trying to come up with a good way right now to get Trump to, quote, kick Putin's ass. Watch this.
Oh, yeah.
Putin wants to recreate the former Soviet Union, the Russian Empire. He wants to take countries that are not his. In the mid-90s, Ukraine gave up 1,700 nuclear weapons with a promise that their sovereignty would be respected by Russia. Putin broke that promise. He's not going to stop until somebody makes him stop. So Trump has been tough on Iran, who is incredibly dangerous, but they're in a weakened state. And Putin, your turn is coming. Donald Trump is the Scotty Scheffler of American politics and foreign diplomacy, and he's about to put a whooping on your ass. What's going to happen here is that Trump is going to impose tariffs on people that buy Russian oil. China, India, and Brazil, those 3 countries buy about 80% of cheap Russian oil. That's what keeps Putin's war machine going. So President Trump's going to put 100% tariff on all those countries, punishing them for helping Putin.
Okay, come on, a couple things to comment on there, but let's start off with the premise that but Donald Trump is going to put a whooping on the ass of President Putin. How do you see that?
It's Lindsey Graham. First, I mean, what's the deal with the Trey Gowdy hairdo? He looks like a freaking cucumber. It's unbelievable. So, I mean, it's Fox News. Yeah. And no, it's Lindsey Graham. The guys are covered, obviously. And if fine people of South Carolina continue to elect this cretin, I mean, it just merely, it puts the stain on their reputation. And so he is a warmonger covered. He ran away at some point of time. There is even the video of this from Russian TV station. It was the 2015 or 2016. He just ran away. They say, why do you want to kill Russians? And something like that. So, well, yeah, he can talk whatever he wants. Let them, so, and what can I say? Well, it's, you saw yourself what kind of friends Mr. Trump has. So, and yeah, his presidency is done pretty much.
Well, so let's look at the second thing he talked about there toward the end, that at the end of this 50 days, which is going to be sometime in September, I think, when it officially expires, that he's going to have these 100% tariffs on China, India, and Brazil, and that is going to flip things around, and then Putin's really going to understand what's what. What say you?
Well, obviously, he doesn't understand real economy. He understands the insider trading and how to defraud people. He understands that, and how to take bribes from military-industrial complex. That's clear. He doesn't understand the basic economy, and that he doesn't understand the economy of Russia, that actually the trade with the hydrocarbons constitutes about 17% of Russian budget. But you cannot explain to Lindsey Graham how Russia actually prospers on other things. And he basically, if Trump introduces 100%, it's going to hit United States really painfully.